What if your DNA whispered an ancient secret, not just from your grandparents, but from a tribe of Ice Age hunters, Beaker Age migrants, Viking settlers, and even Roman frontier families, all rolled into one? Because inside every modern Scot, there's not one story but thousands. A layered code written by glaciers, migrations, and memories that refuse to die. This isn't folklore, it's science told in blood. 12,000 years ago, the last ice sheets began to pull back from what would become Scotland. The land beneath was raw, wild, and silent, shaped by wind and meltwater, dotted with birch and pine. And into this fragile world came the first humans. Small bands of hunter-gatherers crossed from what's now northern England, following herds and coasts, settling where rivers met the sea. But the DNA they carried defies what most people imagine. Ancient remains, like those of Cheddar Man in southern Britain, reveal a startling picture. Dark brown skin, curly black hair, and bright blue eyes. The first Scots looked more like North Africans than the pale-skinned Celts of later myth. It's a reminder that Europe's palette changed with time, not with the first footsteps. And because Scotland's terrain is so rugged, its highlands, its glens, its remote islands, some of those early genetic lines survived far longer than elsewhere in Europe. In certain isolated regions, echoes of those Ice Age foragers still flow quietly in modern blood, each genome a time capsule of a forgotten landscape. Then, around 4,500 years ago, everything changed. From continental Europe came a wave of people carrying distinctive pottery, bell-shaped beakers, copper daggers, and the knowledge of metalworking. They were the Beaker people, and with them came one of the most dramatic population shifts in European history. Ancient DNA tells a staggering truth. Within just a few centuries, up to 90% of Britain's male lineages were replaced. In genetic terms, it was a reset. Old hunter-gatherer lines faded, and new genes, lighter skin, lighter eyes, different immunity traits swept across the islands. But in Scotland, the story wasn't pure replacement. Because isolation shields, not erases, some old bloodlines persisted in the far north and west, creating a hybrid mosaic of old foragers and new farmers. That layering is what makes Scottish DNA unique, a fingerprint of resistance and adaptation. When you trace a modern genome from the Highlands, you can almost feel that tug of war between deep ancestry and new arrivals, between the Ice Age and the Bronze Age, written molecule by molecule. We tend to imagine Scottish clans as ancient, pure bloodlines. MacDonalds, Campbells, Frasers, MacLeods, stretching back unchanged through time. But genetics tells a more human truth. Modern DNA studies of clan surnames show remarkable variety. Two men, both named MacDonald, may share no paternal ancestry at all. In some clans, a dozen distinct Y chromosome lineages coexist under a single banner. How can that be? Because in Scotland, identity could matter more than blood. During centuries of conflict, displacement, and allegiance, men joined powerful clans for protection, marriage, or loyalty. A name was a declaration of belonging, not proof of descent. If your village was conquered, you might take the victor's name. If you swore loyalty to a chief, his clan name became yours. Over generations, that sense of kinship hardened into myth. The clans we romanticize today were not sealed family trees. They were alliances adaptive, evolving, human, and their diversity is now visible, literally, in the code inside their descendants. Fast forward to the late 700 seconds AD. The northern horizon fills with dragon-prowed ships, cutting through grey seas. The Vikings had arrived, but not just as raiders. They stayed. They farmed. They married local women, raised children, and built new kingdoms. In places like Orkney, Shetland, and Caithness, the genetic footprint is astonishing. Male ancestry today can be more Norse than parts of Norway itself. Surnames, dialects, and even facial features bear that northern stamp. Yet the paradox deepens. Archaeogenetic research from 2022 revealed that, in Bronze Age Orkney, while genome-wide ancestry shifted, suggesting new cultural influence, the male lineages themselves remained stubbornly local. In other words, outsiders came and mingled, but the core families of Orkney endured for centuries. It's a dance of invasion and persistence. Cultures changed faster than chromosomes. And that's the story written in Orkney's DNA today, a dialogue between Vikings and the very first islanders. But the surprises don't stop there. Even in one of Europe's farthest corners, Scotland's DNA carries whispers from distant places. Geneticists have identified rare markers linking a small fraction of Scots to ancient migrations from North Africa, the Near East, and even Siberia. These aren't modern imports, they're ghosts of centuries-old journeys. Roman soldiers on the frontier, medieval traders on the North Sea, pilgrims and prisoners carried by empire and ocean. Every generation left a trace, a single mutation here, a tiny cluster there, and together they form a human map, more intricate than any tartan. When modern researchers plot the DNA of thousands of Scots, they still see the outlines of the old kingdoms, the Gaels, Britons, Picts, and Norse, each region echoing its own historical mixture. The Western Isles lean Gaelic Norse. The Northeast holds stronger Pictish and Anglo-Saxon signatures. Even within cities, fine-scale clusters mirror ancient boundaries, erased from maps, but not from genes. It's proof that isolation can preserve history better than ink. So why does any of this matter? Because DNA isn't just a story about the dead, it shapes the living. Those ancient adaptations, the ones that helped early Scots survive long, dark winters, still echo in the modern genome. Variants that tune vitamin D metabolism, that influence red hair, pale skin, and freckling, that regulate mood and energy in low light. They're evolutionary fingerprints left by millennia of northern life. In the Northern Isles, scientists with the Viking Genes Project have even identified rare genetic variants enriched by isolation. Some relate to cholesterol processing, others to autoimmune or neurological traits, not harmful by design, just intensified by centuries of intermarriage in small communities. Understanding them can guide medicine today. So when someone in America, Canada, or Australia orders a DNA kit and learns they have Scottish heritage, they're not just connecting to a place on the map, they're touching a 10,000-year lineage of survival. From Ice Age foragers and Bronze Age smiths, to Vikings, clansmen, and farmers who adapted, endured, and passed on their spark. Scotland's genome is not a single song, it's a choir. Every gene, every mutation, every regional quirk is a verse in the ballad of human endurance. A land that kept its secrets in islands and glens has now revealed them under the microscope. And when you listen closely, you can almost hear it. The hum of glaciers melting, the clang of copper in the beaker workshops, the laughter in a Viking longhouse, the oath sworn by a clan warrior before battle. They all live on not in stone, but in cells. The story of Scotland's DNA rewrites the old myth of Celtic with a dash of Viking. It's far deeper, far older, and far more human. It's a living archive of migrations, unions, and survival, proof that identity is never simple and heritage never singular. So next time you see red hair glint in the sun, or hear a Gaelic lullaby carried on the wind, remember these are not just cultural echoes, they're biological time capsules. We are all the sum of ancient risks and ancient loves. Our DNA is the memory of every journey our ancestors dared to take. If you found this journey through Scotland's hidden genetic code fascinating, come, explore more of humanity's forgotten chapters on Prehistoric Shadows, where science meets story, and every cell tells a tale 10,000 years in the making.